podcast that you're listening to is being presented to you with the cooperation of the SJ Network. If you're a person who needs a publicist and you want to appear on podcasts, contact Stephen Joyner at s-j-network.com. Let's get on with the show.
Attention, rebels of the Sherpalution. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. We would like to give you a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial simply by heading to www.audibletrial.com/Sherpa. There are over 180,000 titles of audiobooks and podcasts, including this one, to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. And now, the one and only Mr. Bruce will lead you into the Sherpa Chalet. As a reminder, today's dinner special consists of whatever we can steal from the restaurant next door.
Coming to you from Sherpa Chalet in beautiful downtown Mount Podcastia, it's time for entertainment interviews in the Sherpa screening room. Grab an aisle seat and a bucket of popcorn, but don't crunch too loud or you'll miss the show. Now, here's your host, Jim, the podcast Sherpa.
Welcome back, rebels of the Sherpalution, to the Sherpa Screening Room, a presentation of Too Many Podcasts. If you were listening last time, you heard part one of my interview with Stan Livingston. Now, some of you may know him from his role as Chip Douglas in My Three Sons, but Stan has done a whole lot since then, and he got involved with the stage, he got involved with movies, and he's going to talk about something that he's doing for people who want to get into show business. It's really awesome to hear this story, and especially coming from a guy like him who's got over 50 years in the entertainment business. So I don't want to hold you up too much longer, but let's get going to the Sherpa Screening Room and have a listen to my conversation with Stan Livingston.
The reason we were canceled was the networks, the FCC started cracking down on networks that were actually producing shows and were exhibiting them. And what happened in My Three Sons, kind of midway through it, we changed from ABC to CBS. And when they changed, Fred and Don Feddersen sold their interest in the show, the ownership interest, to CBS. So the show was actually owned by CBS at this point, and they were under this ruling to divest. And what happened was they were allowed to keep one show. That's all the FCC offered them, and they could pick any show in their stable to keep. And the rest of the shows, they would have to retire at the end of the year if they were producing them and showing them. So they decided to keep Gunsmoke, which was, I think it had been on about 16 years by then, their longest running show and longest running drama. And so we were told My Three Sons was going to be retired at the end of the year because of the FCC regulation. And, I think Fred I felt it probably had run its course by then. And then to find a producer who would buy it and then try and sell it back to a network, good luck with that. It's like buying a car with 200,000 miles on it. It wasn't going to happen.
Right.
So, quietly got euthanized. Like I said, it still had respectable ratings. It was probably in the 20s and 30s. Normally you wouldn't get canceled unless you're 60 and above. But yeah, Fred just, I think he was getting tired of doing it. I mean, the amazing thing is he was probably only 65 when the show went off. And then it's like a trip for me. Every once in a while I'll see his show and I go, wow. I remember when I turned 65 and I was thinking to myself, gosh, I'm the same age Fred was, not when he started the show, but when it ended. And now I look at Bub or Wayne Demerson and I go, I'm the same age as Bub or Uncle Charlie now.
You had actually a real close relationship with William Frawley. He was kind of like a grandfather to you?
Yeah. I didn't know either of my two real grandfathers. They were deceased by the time I was born, actually. So I never got to meet or see them. And I always longed to have a grandfather. All the kids in my neighborhood had them. I'm like, hey, who's this old guy I'm supposed to have that's missing? So I thought I'd one up them all. Got on the TV show. And Barry and I, we were big I Love Lucy fans. We'd always feign sickness in the morning, like about 8 o'clock. And then we talked my parents that, we got to stay home. We got a stomach ache. My parents would say, okay. And then they'd leave and go to work. My mom, I don't know where she went. She'd talk about shoes or something. But, we turned I Love Lucy on immediately after they left. And then we'd have an incredibly miraculous recovery about 9:30 when the show ended. And so we were very familiar with William Frawley. And I thought he was the coolest guy on I Love Lucy. I just like those cranky, cantankerous guys. So when I found out he was the guy that was going to be the grandfather on the show, I was very excited about that, and met him, and I think William Frawley was one of those W.C. Fields kind of characters, where it's like no kids, no animals, keep them away from me, kind of thing. But for some reason, he took a shine to me, and I was pretty outspoken, and I was kind of like he was, and we bonded, and I made it my mission to turn him into the grandfather I didn't have. And I guess he was happy to oblige. And, for the almost 4 years he was on the show, we ate lunch together every day in a restaurant around the corner from the studio called Nick Adele's, where he held court from noon to 1 every day and had his liquid lunch. And, almost every day he'd buy me a drink. And, I'm just like a 10, 11-year-old kid. So I had to go there with my guardian, and she's shaking her finger at me. So I had to dump my drink under the table. And, he was that way, We'd go play checkers together, and he had a dressing room trailer. And so I'd go in there and we'd just hang out and talk, play checkers. He'd give me a cigar to smoke. It was exactly the best influence on kids. It's a good thing he wasn't doing drugs. I'd hate to think I'd probably been like a 12-year-old stoner or something. But he did like to drink, and he was a great guy. Yeah, when I was 13, it was my birthday, and I remember we went to lunch at this restaurant, Nick Adele's. He had it all set up, so a big cake was waiting there at the end of the lunch. And then when we came back to the studio, my dressing room was above the makeup room. And I remember I went up the stairs to get dressed for the scene, and I walked in. In those days, I used to surf. I just started surfing and got inside my dressing room, and there was a 9-foot long Dewey Weber surfboard there from my Uncle Bill, as he called himself. So, he really loved me, and, we just really hit it off, I was so sad when he didn't come back. It was pretty traumatic for me. And,
sure.
Yeah. Even Barry loved him. Barry came on the show as a friend, but he got to partake in some of our shenanigans, like pulling stunts on Vivian Vance, because by then they were doing the Lucy show next door, and both Lucy and Vivian obviously were there. I remember one time he had us gather up all these film tins, these great big tins they put giant reels in.
Right.
And next door was the editorial department, and they would just throw these tins away. They had so many of them. And so he had us gather up a couple dozen of them and put them in a box. And we went onto the stage one time. We could hear them rehearsing not far away. So Bill's idea was to, pitch all these film tins out of the cardboard box and let them roll around and sound like 1,000 cymbals going off at once. But he waited till he heard Vivian Vance, doing her lines before we let him go. We go, now, let it go. And she knew it was him. We heard, Bell, she knew she was being pranked.
It's amazing. All the other celebrities that you got to know in all that time. I was looking at your website. Here we go, little shameless plug here, StanleyLivingston.com. And you had a list of the celebrities who were on My Three Sons. Harrison Ford was on an episode of My Three Sons?
Uncredited. If you look, there's a party scene. I can't remember if it was with Tim Considine or in the Don Grady, a scene with Don Grady where they're at a big party at the high school or whatever it is. And Harrison Ford is in there. He's recognizable. Well, that happens a lot. Some buddies of mine are filmmakers. We were talking about that. And the guys that did, I don't know if you ever heard of this film. It's called Short Circuit. was like that cute little robot.
Number 5, Johnny 5. He's
right. Yeah. Anyway, they wrote that, and they wrote it's a thing called with the Monster Underground, Tremors. They did all the Tremors movies, and they did another movie called Heart and Soul. They did the movie version of Wild Wild West with Will Smith. Anyway, they were talking about, when they first started their careers and, doing, documentaries, you do industrials, commercial. They did an industrial for this company in the Valley. I think it was in the San Fernando Valley. It was, just some company making some kind of parts and pieces out of metal. And anyway, they were looking for somebody that could describe on camera, what they were actually doing. So they just wanted one of the workmen who felt confident enough to get in front of a camera and just kind of, talk about what was happening next to him or behind him. And anyway, they didn't think anything of it. They shot it. It ended up, I guess they turned it in, got paid. Flash forward about 20 years later, they were putting some sort of documentary was being done on them. And they were, talking about how they cut their teeth on, documentaries, commercials, music videos, the stuff you do early on, industrials. The editor called them in the room and said, "Hey, check this out." And so they came in, they're watching it. And the guy that they picked, he was just a workman on the floor. He wasn't an actor at that point. It was Kevin Costner.
Wow.
Yeah. I guess he had the confidence to get up and talk in front of the camera without blacking out. Maybe he'd already had some training, but, it didn't lead to anything with these guys, with Brent and Steve. But, that's how show business works. A lot of people don't realize that. Show business, there's no one way to get into it. People come into it. People think most people go through the door. Well, show business doesn't even have a door. If you're getting into show business, if you come through the door, you're one of the few. Most people come through the window, up through the floorboards, up from the basement, down through the chimney, and that's how you get into show business. It's not what you would think.
You got into theater after television?
Yeah, I never really did theater, during the time we did My Three Sons, mainly because I was always working. And by the time My Three Sons was almost finished, I had started a production company myself with another guy. So when we were shooting, I was doing the same thing that guy Brent and Steve were doing. I'm doing music videos, commercials, industrial, whatever we could get hired to shoot, make a product and make money. And, so I produce and direct those. So it was about I think it was earlier. It was probably about 1980, 81. My brother called me and said, "Hey, do you want to do a play?" And I was like, "Nah, I don't think I could remember all those lines, So he said, "Well, there's these guys. They wanted me to see if you want to do it with me, but I'm going to do a Neil Simon play called Star Spangled Girl up in Utah." So I didn't do it. And then I think it was the next year he called me again. Says, "I just got an offer to do a play. They want to know if you want to do it. It's down in St. Louis." And I think I wanted to do it because, it would have been fun to work with my brother. But I just was worried about not being able to remember, I'm a film guy. So you shoot a scene, if you blow a line, the cut, take 2, take 3, whatever, till you get it right.
Whole new world.
There ain't no cut, take 2, take 3. There's, only, what the hell's my line? And somebody help me out here on stage. So it was probably about 84. It was the same guys that hired Barry to do the one in Utah. They had theaters in Kansas City, Missouri. And at that time I thought, maybe I should do this. It would be like a good experience, a good learning experience. I just think I was ready for it then. Agreed to do it. And I was a little bit afraid of going to Kansas City because I go, what are we going to do there? It's just like, what, cows running all over the place? And where's the theater in a barn? And he goes, no, it's not like that at all. So we got there and he was right. Kansas City, and in my mind's eye, it sounded pretty rural, but it's actually as corporate and every bit as nice as going to like downtown Beverly Hills. They had a place called the Country Club Plaza that had you been transported there and didn't know it, you would think you were on Rodeo Drive, but it's the same stores practically. Beautiful, and, great entertainment at night, bars everywhere, outdoor bars, jazz music. Yeah, I had a great time. We were there like 3-4 months. We did a play, and I liked it so much they called us the next year because they sold out the theater when we were there. So we did another play for those guys, and I think we missed a year, and then came back the 2 following years and did the same thing. So I probably spent about 1.5 years of my life in Kansas City doing plays. Then I did another one after that. That was by myself. There wasn't in Washington, D.C. I got an offer to do a play there. And anyway, that was the last play I did. By then, I had my company up, and I was starting to do other things, doing TV pilots and films, and still doing music videos and all kinds of stuff. So, yeah, it was a great experience. And wish I had done it earlier, but it's like all my friends I look at that are my age that were on originally, we were all vying for the same parts. Jay North, who ultimately got Dennis the Menace, and Butch Patrick ended up on the Munsters. John Provost was in Lassie. We're all trying to do the same thing. But what happened was I finally got my turn with My Three Sons and got a series. Unlike them, their series went, for maybe 3 years, 5 years at the most. My Three Sons just went on. And so they ended up making the rounds. In fact, most of those guys ended up doing My Three Sons, episodes, just as an actor, not as Dennis the Menace or anything. Or, the guy was on Leave It to Beaver, Tony Dow, did some episodes.
Sure.
So I knew them, my whole life, all these guys, because we all started show business kind of simultaneously. But they got to go on and do lots of different TV shows. That was the only downside of doing My Three Sons, which the upside outweighed the downside that it went so long. The downside was I didn't get to do any other people's shows because we were precluded from appearing in other TV series while we were on My Three Sons. You couldn't do it because they could have a competing sponsor. So that was the rationale behind that. Could do movies, which I did some other movies afterwards. I was in a movie with Charlie Bronson, Mary Tyler Moore called X-15. I was in How the West Was Won, which is really strange because the whole reason I wanted to be an actor when I was a kid, just in school before I was in show business, I was in elementary school. I wanted to be in all the school plays and the musicals and all that. I was just, into showbiz, I guess. It was just in my blood. And, but I wanted to be in show business because I wanted to be a cowboy. And actually, one of the first things I did, I didn't have any lines again, but I'm actually in a TV commercial with Roy Rogers wearing a Western cowboy outfit. And the commercial was for a toy lariat. I'm spinning the lariat, Roy Rogers spinning it, and then he lariats me and pulls me in. So I thought I hit pay dirt and that was going to be my Western career, but I never got to be in any of the Westerns on TV, like Laramie and Wagon Train, the Virginia, whatever. What was the other one? I was really jealous of Johnny Crawford for being on The Rifleman. So I didn't do any, but then one day, and I guess it was probably about the third year or so, My Three Sons, my agent got a call and they wanted to see me for this feature film, this big feature film called How the West Was Won, which I didn't realize it at the time, the significance of it, but it was going to star just about everybody in Hollywood. I mean, by that, I mean John Wayne, Henry Fonda, Jimmy Stewart, Debbie Reynolds, Gregory Peck, and then all the, more minor characters were all these big, like Walter Brennan and you name it. Everybody was in that movie. And it was actually a Cinerama film, which was this new process that had come along that created widescreen in the movie theaters. Because until Cinerama came, everything was in that same format you would see on TV. 3:4 was the aspect ratio. And so now suddenly the screen was, almost 3:1, 3 times as wide as it was high. And so I ended up, in How the West Was Won, which was a huge, big deal. The screenplay, I know, won an Academy Award. The movie was really well received, and it's kind of found its place in the history of Westerns as one of the best Westerns really ever made. And they have these Cinerama revivals about every 2 or 3 years, and I get invited down there to introduce the movie. It used to be Debbie Reynolds or some of the other people that are, but they've all passed away. So I'm one of the few living souls that was in the movie. I was about 13, 14 when I did it. And Russ Tamlin, I know, still around, but he's got to be in his 80s. So anyway, so I introduced it. And it's been a real honor to do that. And like I said, I didn't get to be in a lot of Westerns, but I sure picked a good one.
Now, you are still working. You were telling me that you were working on a movie right now, right?
Actually, I was working on a TV pilot, but everything is still on hold for me because of COVID. I had 2 TV pilots. This was about a year and a half ago, about 2 years ago, I guess now, when it first struck. And we were ready. We were funded, ready to go. And I started reading about the COVID stuff and as it pertained to shooting, from the Screen Actors Guild point of view. And I came back to my partners. I said, I think we'd be irresponsible doing this right now. I don't know what this is, but I sure as hell don't want to catch it. And we're going to be doing exactly what they're not recommending, which is bringing, a cast and a crew together, 30 people in a soundstage or a giant room, wherever we're shooting this. And then unmasking, or at least the cast would be. I go, what if somebody gets sick? And here's a better one. What if somebody gets sick and then dies? Because people were dying.
Sure.
And I said, it's a little bit different for me than you guys. Yeah, I'm one of the 3 producers and the director, but I'm the guy that's on the LLC as the manager. That's the guy with all the liability because no LLC is going to protect me from a lawsuit that basically ignores the rules that were sent to you, not only by Screen Actors Guild, the Directors Guild, and IATSE. I'm screwed. And I go, I'm too old to get screwed at this point in my life. That the legal liability and financial liability is more than I want. So I basically signed off, gave the project to them, and about 3 months later, they finally got the courage to go do it, which I still thought was a mistake. I just said, take my name off of every scrap of paper. I can't. I don't want to be associated with it. So I let that go. My other project hadn't been funded yet, but then I decided to tell the brokers that I was working with who raised money for me to just back off for a while till I know what's going on, because I envisioned the same thing. So get lucky, get the money, and then we can't shoot it, or it'll be so onerous to shoot it with some of the rules and regulations that the Screen Actors Guild was requiring that, it just makes it like a real, really hard to shoot. I've known people that have worked through this, and it's just onerous to do. So anyway, if it lightens up, I'm just going to hang in there about another 6 months, and then I'll go back out and see if I can get the money. It's a sitcom that I have some partners on this one too, but we'll see, whether it goes or not. If not, I've got this other project that I did a while ago, and I kind of pulled it off the internet because number one, we were moving at the time and I didn't want to deal with the company or anything. So I took it down off the internet. Although there is some information up there, but we had a website, we were selling a product. But what it was, it ended up consuming about 6-7 years of my life. And I thought somebody should do something about this. There's a lot of people that come to the industry and want to be actors. They go to mom and pop acting schools or big acting schools in Hollywood or universities or Yale or Harvard. And they learn how to act, meaning the art and craft of acting. And soon after that, they graduate. They're ready to become actors in the industry and don't know where to turn or how to get started. They don't know the business side of being an actor. They know the creative side and the craft side. And I saw that for years and years and years, and I decided to do something about it. So I created this program called The Actor's Journey. Mm-hmm. And it was actually originally The Actor's Journey for Kids, because when I first got the idea, I thought I should do something. Because there's so many parents get ripped off trying to get their children involved in the industry because they don't understand it. There's nobody to explain it to you. And so I thought, if I could create this program, then the parents of children trying to involve their infant, child, or teen in the industry would know what they're doing from day one, what to do and what not to do. So originally it was The Actor's Journey for Kids. And then just before we started to shoot it, I thought, I need to do this because, these people need to be protected. But to be honest, I know more adult actors than I do kid actors. Kid actors are probably a fraction of the industry, maybe 5%. The other 95% are people over 18 to whatever age. And they're equally as disadvantaged that there's no place to go to learn the craft side of being an actor. I mean, the business side of being an actor, the non-performance skills. So, I had this idea, and so finally got the money together, raised money to shoot the project. I brought in over 100 people from the entertainment industry, not just actors, although there was those. And in the case of the kids, I brought in some former child actors. But I brought in, directors, producers, executive producers, showrunners, agents, managers, casting directors, casting agents, the president of the Screen Actors Guild, the president of the Directors Guild of America, about 10 different people that sat on the various boards there to teach the program. And 45 of those people have either won or been nominated for Academy, Emmy, Golden Globe Awards, almost to a person. They've been in the industry 20, 30 years, so they know where of this feat. So I put together for the Actor's Journey for Kids was a 5-hour-long, 5 DVD set that walks you through probably about 40 segments, 40 different segments of information that's related to the business side of being the parent of a child in the industry. On the adult side of it, meaning you're 18 years old or you're responsible for your own career and your mom and dad aren't going to be involved in it. It was a 10-hour program that covered about 65 topics. And in both cases, they're all taught by all these industry, some cases, industry legends. We had a ton of people in there at that time when we shot it. Henry Winkler, Michael York. We had the director Richard Donner, who directed all the Lethal Weapon movies, the original Superman, The Omen. That he just passed away, I think, last year. But so we just, it was basically the horse's mouth teaching the program. Anyway, we started selling it as a DVD program. And like I said, my wife and I wanted to move. I had to basically disassemble everything, close my office. We moved, and I couldn't deal with it at the time because it was a DVD program, and then the orders had to be fulfilled. So I pulled it down, and since then I realized now that we don't have to be a DVD based program anymore. It could be file based, be online, and it'd be the same. It'd be the same program. In other words, it's still 10 hours long. So you can either buy the whole program, or it's I think 8 volumes. You can buy it 1 volume at a time if you want. Or it's also broken down further. So if you want to just watch segments, you can just watch the segments, which are about, anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes each, and learn the same thing. But, you pay for it on the internet and you can immediately start watching it. We'll probably still have the DVDs too, but I think more people are going to be interested in the online experience at this point. So I'm in the process of trying to get that back up and online and hopefully available for people again sometime this year.
That's got to be like a full circle moment for you, especially, coming in as a kid and lasting so long in the entertainment field, doing all these different things. And now you're giving back saying, okay, well, here's what you need to do, kind of like a peek behind the curtain.
Exactly. Well, that's what I wanted to do, is put something back in the industry myself, and then having worked as an actor for so long, but also having worked, on my own projects and casting and producing and watching what actors go through and, kind of commiserating with them, because of the difficulties they go through, and nobody ever tells them anything. And each person comes involved in the industry it's ridiculous. We have an industry where each actor comes in, and, most people aren't related to the entertainment industry and don't know people in it. So it's like each actor having to reinvent the wheel. It's sort of like, well, here's the wheel. Why don't you just look at this before you do everything? And you're going to be so far down the road, this stuff that would take you, 5-10 years to learn, or maybe not at all, depending on the experiences that you have. You'll have such an advantage of knowing what to involve yourself in, what not, and save time, save money, and know what to be prepared for. When people are saying things that you don't understand, you'll now know what they're talking about. So that was really the impetus behind it. And, like I said, having worked in the industry as long as I had all these great contacts of, people that I knew some have gone on to have huge careers. Some have gone on to become presidents of unions, and, they really know wherever they speak.
Sure. So before I let you go, let's talk about your website for a second. So if people want to check out all that great stuff that's on there, they can find out about the Actor's Journey project. And it's a treasure trove of a bunch of classic TV stuff too. It's some really great interviews.
Yeah. Some of those interviews are probably not relevant anymore. I don't even know if the links are up. I apologize, but I've been so busy. I used to attend my own personal, website, the StanleyLivingston.com website, a little bit more, but it does have the links to, I believe, the Actor's Journey still there. And if you go to YouTube and type in the Actor's Journey, I think we made there's like 40 or 60 clips of the various people that were in it. I mean, it's kind of mind-blowing when you see all these people, especially if you have the program itself, because every, new clip that comes on and it's, edited at a pretty fast pace. You've been looking at Henry Winkler one moment, then at Sherman Hemsley, and you're watching Richard Donner telling you, something. And it just, like I say, all these amazing people just that you're going to know or know of, if you're a movie buff or just even remotely interested in show business, is kind of interesting just to watch it from that standpoint too. But if you're trying to learn how to becoming an actor, you're not going to become an actor. You may learn the art and craft of acting, but to get into the business is a whole other Megillah.
Before I let you go, I just want to say thank you for your body of work. It's an amazing and vast body of work, and definitely a TV icon. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be given to speak to you, Stanley. So, Stanley Livingston, folks. So, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Well, it took us a while to hook up, Jim, but we did it. So, thanks for having me on, and we'll do it again.
Be a rebel. Follow the show at Sherpalution on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
A very special thanks to Stan Livingston for coming on by the Sherpa Screening Room, and a very special thanks to all of you for having a listen. And you can hear this show, as we mentioned, on any of your favorite podcast apps or at my website, Sherpalution.com. Sherpalution is a big word. Sherpalution. Yes, I move on in the spelling bee. If you know how to spell that word, you can follow me on social media because it's Sherpalution at Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And we keep you up to date with what's going on the show. So if you ever want to go on there and maybe post a comment, tell me if you liked the show, if you didn't like the show, please feel free to do that, even if you've got some suggestions for Sherpa samples. Like if you want me to check out a podcast, that's what that means for those of you newbies. But anyway, we will be back next week with Too Many Podcasts, and we will be talking to another actor and a director and a writer. All three rolled up in one. He's a really great guy. Had a lot of fun interviewing him. You're going to want to hear this one, folks. Until then, Viva la Sherpalution, and I will see you next time. Hey, well, you're still there. Could you be so nice to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify just to kind of let people know about the Sherpalution? We got to spread this thing around, you know what I mean? So I'll see you guys next time. Mr. Bruce, we can head on out of here, and we will see you next time. Viva la Sherpalution.
Thanks for listening to the Sherpa Screening Room. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, and share this podcast. I'm Mr. Bruce, and this has been a Sherpalu Studios production. Viva la Sherpalution!